Welcome to episode 2 of Saturday Stand Up. Let's talk some Seattle Mariners baseball. So you guys left some interesting questions this week for the second episode of our Saturday Stand-Up series. There's some very specific related Mariner questions in there, and there's also some fun questions mixed in as well. So let's get right into the first question. Question number 1 is, why does Scott Service leave JP Crawford in the leadoff spot with all the offensive struggles? So while this is definitely a very interesting question, I do think the answer is a little more obvious than you may think, because Scott Service is not going to move JP Crawford out of the leadoff spot. As we know, he's JP Crawford. He did really well for us last year in the leadoff spot, and just because he's struggling 14 games into the season, I don't really think they're going to make that big of an adjustment, because especially someone like Julio, who's also struggling, so you can't really exchange him and put him in the leadoff spot. So I don't know who you were maybe thinking that could go in the leadoff spot. To me, it's either Julio or JP, and if both of them are struggling, there's really not much to do there in terms of moving them around. JP's also still walking at a pretty good clip. Even though he's struggling offensively, he's still walking at a 10% walk rate, so which is still pretty good. Obviously, he can do better than that, but again, he's still getting on base, just not at very high average. So I think if we're about 35 games in and this is still the case, I definitely think Scott does need to make an adjustment, but for right now, I think JP's fine in leadoff spot. So for question number 2, this one's definitely more of a fun question. It's, let's say hypothetically you could take out T-Mobile Park and exchange it for any other active ballpark. Which ballpark are you choosing to be the Mariners' new home? And they would not move cities. So in my lifetime, I've been to Yankee Stadium, Citi Field, Chase Field. I've been to Citizens Bank. I've been to Camden Yards. I've been to T-Mobile when it was Safeco. And in terms of all the parks that I've been to, I think I would definitely say Chase Field. Chase Field was really awesome, and it was really super modern, especially with the roof just similar to T-Mobile. And it's really just in a very quiet area, which I kind of liked because it didn't feel like a major city. It was very peaceful going out there to Chase Field. But if I were to say any other park in terms of everyone else in the MLB, I would probably say PNC, because PNC looks absolutely sick. And especially at night, I just remember the video of Carlos Santana's walk-off home run there. And the vibes were just right there at that stadium. So I would probably say PNC Park. So for these next 2 questions, they kind of go hand in hand a little bit, only based on playing time. But the first question is, why is the team not playing Luke Raley? So this has seemed to be the major topic amongst Mariner fans, discussing why is Luke Raley not playing. He only has 20 ABs so far this season. So in my opinion, there's 2 different ways to look at why Luke Raley isn't playing. One is due to just how the other guys are playing, and the other is just due that he should be playing, just giving guys off days. So there's kind of 2 different aspects of it. I'm going to go into detail a little bit on both of them. So let's start about how the other guys are playing. Currently, Dom Canzone leads the team in WRC+, which is obviously a spot Luke Raley would play in. While Dom didn't start off very hot, he currently leads the team in home runs and has got his average above 200. And his WRC+ right now leads the team at a 152, so I don't really see how you could take Dom out of the lineup per se. Similarly with Mitch Haniger, he also is 4th on the team in WRC+ with a 134. He's been hitting the ball really, really well. He's hitting 261 with 2 home runs as well, so his offense is definitely still there. And then talking about another counterpart that kind of takes Luke Raley's spot is Dylan Moore, who's 5th on the team in WRC+ with a 126. He hasn't been hitting the ball great lately. He's at a 182 clip in terms of average, but he has been hitting the ball pretty decently. He also has 1 home run and 2 stolen bases on the year, so he's offering things in other aspects. And as we know, Demo is one of our best utility guys. He can come off the bench and pretty much play anywhere on the field. So in terms of that first point of view, there are guys ahead of him that are doing much better. He isn't doing bad this year. Again, he only has 20 ABs, which really is nothing. But in those 20 ABs, his WRC+ is almost last on the team with a -4. But again, you're talking about Luke Raley, who was a 130 WRC+ guy last year. Obviously, he struggled in the second half, as we all know, but he still posted up. I think it was a 94 WRC+. So he's still a very good major league player, and I don't know why he's not getting these ABs. But one situation where you could factor him in is by giving guys days off, because to be honest, I don't really want Mitch Haniger playing every day due to his injury history. Like, let him ease himself back into playing at a consistent clip. Similar with Mitch Garver. I don't think Mitch Garver is off to a great start so far, and he could have a day off, and that's somewhere where Luke Raley can either be the DH or Mitch Haniger moves to DH and Luke Raley goes to the outfield, whatever it may be. He can give these guys days off, including guys like Canzone, Ty France even, because he could play first base. So, let's just say he gives Mitch Haniger, Mitch Garver, and Ty France a day off a week. That's 3 games where now he's playing every week and still getting those consistent ABs. Because I've always said this about Luke Raley, that I think he's successful when he gets those consistent at-bats. When he doesn't, he's really not the best off the bench, kind of like Dom Canzone has been. He's been pretty good coming off the bench, or like a Demo. I don't think Luke Raley's that kind of player. I think he's a guy that really needs that consistency. So it's tough not seeing him get those at-bats, but hopefully Scott can figure out a way to get him into the lineup more often. Because again, you're talking about a guy, if we were to just get rid of him right now, he'd get picked up in a heartbeat because guys want him. He has a lot of skill. So I don't know. I really, really do hope they can figure that out. And moving on to the question that's kind of goes hand in hand with this one is, do you think Dylan Moore should be starting every game? And to be completely honest with you, I do not. I think Dylan Moore succeeds at being his utility guy. You'll see him in left field, you'll see him at first base, you'll see him at second base, whatever it may be. I think that's really where he thrives, and I personally don't think we've seen enough of him to the point where we could be like, he's definitely an everyday player at this level. Personally, he's in his 30s, and guys like Dom Canzone are younger. I'd rather give Dom Canzone a chance to prove that he's an everyday player versus just keep using Dylan Moore and trying to hope he figures it out at some point to be an everyday player. But I think he's best when he's a utility guy like he's been for us the past few years. He's that guy that you just have on the bench. If you need him to go against a lefty, he'll go up there and get you a hit. He'll compete. Kind of like that. I just really don't see him being an everyday player, especially for us. I think there's guys that have way higher floors, and I do think that these guys can really show that they're everyday players. I do definitely think it's a debatable question because I do think there is a group of people out there that think Demo should be playing every day. And again, I don't necessarily think I would disagree. I just don't think he's my first preference in terms of a guy that should be playing every single day. And this last question is a little far-fetched, but how bad does it have to get for a manager change? So the Mariners currently are on a 2-game win streak. Thank the Lord. We have kind of been scoring more runs. We scored 4 last night against the Cubs, and we scored 6 in the game prior against the Blue Jays. So to be completely honest, I don't really have a necessarily answer, but I don't really think it's ever going to reach a point, especially just the pure talent that's on this team, where Scott is going to get the boot halfway through the year or 70% of the way through the year. If I had to give a record where I would definitely say it's going to be considered, and again, this is really just a stretch, but if they were maybe, 30 and 70, 100 games into the season, I definitely think we'd have to reconsider getting a new manager. But again, I do think that this team is just way too talented overall to ever really struggle to the point where we're going to be like, blame it all on Scott. Whether he makes the best decisions or not, I do think that it will just never reach the point where we're going to be that bad where we need a new manager. So I don't know, hopefully they can keep this momentum rolling and keep winning these games, especially this next home stretch. Just keep winning series back to back, whatever it's 2-3 or get the whole sweep, whatever it may be. Let's just win these series, especially while a team like the Astros are struggling. Let's try to get as many games ahead of them as we can before they start to figure it out at some point. But again, like always, I want to thank you guys for your questions. Make sure to follow me over on X if you want to add some questions for next week's episode. But otherwise, I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.